Okay, so fair warning in advance, this is going to be a very long video. What we're going to cover is kind of need to knows about a tibia plateau fracture, my experience with the tibia plateau fracture, how I got it, and kind of everything leading up to me getting my surgery. So on the 3rd of January, I went to a water park called Aqualand, and basically what that is it's an inflatable, it's like an inflatable obstacle bouncy castle kind of thing. It's not like a bouncy castle, obviously, but it's like the same, I don't know what you'd call it. And what happened is that I was on the part of the course called the Apex. Now, the Apex is honestly impossible to do, but so I tried it the first time. I kind of slipped before I got up, so I didn't get the right, so I got back up and tried it again. Now the second time I tried it is when I got injured. So I was actually on the course with my partner Kate and my best friend Ash, and on shore videoing was my best friend Sarah. So my accident is actually on video. It looks pathetic, may I just add, because from what you can see me coming off of it, it doesn't really look like enough to do so much damage, but it was. And the reason that it was because the water was way too shallow, and I'm talking dangerously shallow. So when I came off, I had my legs like this, right? These are my feet. My legs are like this, okay? They're hyperextended. So when I hit the ground, now also keep in mind that the ground was soft mud. So the fact that when I landed on the ground, it felt like concrete speaks volumes. Now, when I hit the ground, my left leg, I felt and heard the biggest pop I have ever experienced in my life. This is the first injury I've ever done. There have been times I'm like, oh my God, I think I broke a bone, but like I sprained or bruised it. I've never broken a bone in my life, so I decided to go all out and break one of the worst bones I could have broken in my leg. Anyway, so yeah, what happened is, and the water was probably about up to here on me, maybe a little bit lower, and so my head was completely out of the water. And I heard the pop. It was like it somehow went from my knee into my ears. I don't know how to explain it, but I know that anyone that has gone through this knows what I mean. And so basically what I did is I grabbed onto my leg and I pulled it straight up to my chest because I didn't know what to do. The pain was so instant that all I could think about doing was grabbing onto my leg. And I turned around and I faced Kate, and I was in tears. Like I just burst into tears, and she straight away jumped in the water because she knew something was wrong. It takes a lot for me to cry, especially when it comes to pain. She knew. So they had to try to get me out of the water. They were pulling me up by my life jacket. But Kate actually, she had to go under the water and push me up. And they got me in the boat and got me to the dock. And the girl said, can you try to straighten your leg? And I think, because my leg was hanging down and I tried to straighten it like that. And I think I got about that much and my whole kneecap shifted again. And I was like, oh, okay, that doesn't feel normal to me. Like that's, So they lay me down, called an ambulance. I waited 2 hours for the ambulance. And when the paramedics arrived, keep in mind, I'm in excruciating pain. Like I'm starting to fall asleep and stuff. And everyone's like, you need to stay awake, like try and stay awake. And I couldn't. And I think it's because my body was going through so much shock that I was starting to lose consciousness. The paramedics arrived. She looked at my knee and she goes, okay, you've dislocated your patella, so we need to relocate it. We're going to give you the green whistle. And And one thing I so vividly remember was my right leg, my good leg, would just start to go like this, and it would just start to tremor, and I couldn't stop it. And it's because I think not only was my body in so much shock, but my body was trying to figure out a way that could help with the pain. Not that it did, but it was kind of like, I'd be like, oh my God, stop moving. So it was like a distraction almost. So they put me on the green whistle. I'm going to sneeze. Put me on the green whistle, knocked me out, and they relocated it. Now, there is a video of that, but I refuse to watch it. I don't think I'll ever be able to watch it. So they relocated it. I regained consciousness a few minutes later. And she started touching up my leg because I remember saying to her, it hurts like up here. And she was touching my leg and I was screaming. And she looked at Kate and she goes, I think she's broken her femur. Now, I don't really, before this, honestly, I knew nothing about legs. I knew I had a kneecap and like other things, but that was it. I didn't know any of these things, but I remember looking at Kate and just watching her and Sarah and Ash just all look at each other like, holy, do you know what I mean? And I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe that's not fantastic then. So I get to the hospital. I have about 7 x-rays, which were all excruciating, may I just add, especially when they made me bend my leg. Yeah, so 7 x-rays. I had a CT scan. They all came back, told me nothing was wrong. It was fine. I was good to go. So they put me in a specific patella brace, which was probably from here to here. And before that, they had me in a big straight brace. So I actually made the conscious decision to take both. And I put the straight brace over the top of the patella. And now that I look back, that was a really good call on my behalf. And I'm very glad I did it. So they told me that they had referred me for an MRI. And if I hadn't heard from them in a couple of days, to give them a call. So it had been a couple of days and the pain was just excruciating. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm just going to call them. And they said that the referral for my MRI had been closed. So there was no referral anymore. So I went to my GP with my partner Kate and her amazing mum Anne. Anne's an orthopedic nurse, and I don't know what I would have done without her throughout this, because she has so much knowledge, you know, like she knows what to expect with the wound and all that kind of stuff and the swelling and everything like that. And, you know, there have just been days she has been able to just settle me down about the physicality side of things. So, yeah, I'm really happy about that. And when we saw my GP, I said to her, I think it had been about 2 weeks by now, I said, look, I've never had an injury like this, but I don't feel like it should be getting worse. So she booked me in for an MRI. I had an MRI a couple days later. The results came back. They said they couldn't see anything. It was fine. And that was it. So I had an orthopedic follow-up appointment, I think a week after that. So by now we're at about 4 weeks, a month from the accident. Had the first orthopedic appointment. He came in, tried to touch my leg, and I cried because the pain was indescribable. And, you know, I cried and he stopped touching it. And he kind of said, yeah, you know, like, look, I've looked at the MRI and there's nothing visible, there's nothing wrong. So basically, you know, you've got a couple of contusions, you know, on your bones, like it's bruised, your tibia's bruised, your femur's bruised, but you know, that's about it, and that'll go away. So we just need to focus on managing your pain. And I was like, okay, you know, like, at this point, like, I'm over it, you know, I'm constantly in pain, I'm not sleeping properly, I'm not a back sleeper, so that's been something I've really struggled with, is sleeping on my back, because I hate it. So he sent me away with some painkillers and stuff, and so I had another orthopedic appointment 2 weeks later. Now, this was the 6 week mark, like 5.5, 6 weeks. And he came in, tried to touch my leg, couldn't do it. So he actually had to put me on laughing gas, a whole tank of laughing gas, which is pretty much a green whistle. And I passed out completely. I was unconscious. I made my partner video it just in case I did anything funny, which I did. And yeah, I was completely unconscious. And then as soon as he touched my leg, regained consciousness, sobbed. I sobbed. Like, I have not sobbed like that. Couldn't even tell you when. And I think, you know, for him that kind of clicked, because not only had I been unconscious, but I was on laughing gas. So realistically, I really shouldn't have been feeling any pain, you know, and if I was feeling pain, it shouldn't have been to that extent. So he went and spoke to his boss and, you know, kind of told him the situation, and he said, right, book her another MRI for 2 days away, and then I will see her. So 2 days later, I had my MRI that morning, and then, oh no, it was afternoon, sorry. I had my MRI that afternoon, and then 2 hours later, I saw Andy, who is my surgeon. Before I even get into talking about this part, I just want to, you know, acknowledge Andy, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here, you know, and it just, yeah. So he came in and he said, right, we noticed, you know, I've seen 2 big abnormalities on your MRI. And he said, I'm glad we did the second MRI because it's shown me that nothing has changed since your first MRI. So there has been no healing at all. So, of course, you know, you're in this situation, you hear a surgeon make a comment like that, you know, I'm glad we did the second MRI because it's shown me nothing's changed. So obviously it was missed. So this is something that was incredibly frustrating for me, because I was in so much pain and no one was listening to me. No one was acknowledging the fact that I knew something was wrong with my body. And that is a lesson as well that I've taken away from this, is that you know your body better than any doctor ever will, because they can't feel your pain. They don't know what you're feeling. You know, you can explain it, but it doesn't really mean they're going to, do you know what I mean? Like, you obviously know if something's wrong with your body, and I did, and I am so glad that I kept pushing, because if I hadn't of, the damage would have been even worse. So it turns out that I had a tibia plateau fracture, which is one of the worst possible things you could do to your leg. So when I landed, so this is my femur, this is my tibia, and like that's my kneecap, okay, in there, like this part here. So when I landed, my femur went like that and crushed down, which is what popped my kneecap out, and then it smashed down my tibia. So it actually caused my tibia to break. And what was happening though is that every day my femur was injuring my tibia. So pretty much every day my femur continued to break my tibia. And you know, so he said to me, he said, look, you know, we're going to need to do surgery. You're going to need to do surgery. And I just remember tearing up. And it was because, you know, not that I was scared of surgery. It was more so someone finally has listened to me. Someone finally is acknowledging the fact that something's wrong with my leg. So, you know, and the way he explained it was like, if you had a ping pong ball and you put your finger through it, that is what your femur is doing to your tibia. So anyway, the week after that, I had to have a CT scan just so he could really see damage that maybe wasn't showing up on the MRI, because from my understanding, I could be wrong, but from my understanding, I think CTs are better for bones. They'll show more of the bone. And yeah, so I had that CT scan, because when he kind of first started talking about the surgery, I was under the impression it was going to be like a keyhole kind of thing, and that's why he decided to do the CT scan, just to see the damage. So then when I saw him on that Thursday before my surgery was on the 2nd of March, my girlfriend's birthday, and I saw him the week prior, and you know, going into it, he was kind of, we were assuming the scar was about going to be this size, and I think he was too, to be completely honest. But so the surgery that I had was a left tibia plateau fracture, ORIM, fixation with fixation plates and screws. I had fake bone put in my leg, which is just, it's like a toothpaste kind of substance, and they just put it in just to, and then it hardens up like bone, and do that. And I think he lifted my tibia back into its proper place as well. So my scar is about this big. It runs from about there to there. Not that you can see that. It's about from here to here. So it's 19 staples. Now, if you are awaiting surgery for a tibia plateau fracture, I feel like it's my duty to warn you that the pain is going to be extreme. Because I had no idea. The pain that, because so when I got surgery, that was 9 weeks after my accident. So for these 9 weeks, I was having pain every day, every second, every minute. And on a scale of 1 to 10, it was at a 9. Every day for 9 weeks, it was a 9. On a good day, it was an 8, but majority of the time, it was a 9. So to then wake up from surgery, and for the first 4 days, the pain that I had from surgery made the 9 weeks feel like a 2. It was excruciating. And, you know, I don't want to pussyfoot around that, because I wish I had known how painful it was going to be. I had this lady visit me from the pain team, because obviously, you know, they had me on a PCA, which is, if you don't know, it's, you know, a pump that you push every 5 minutes for the medication. So I was on fentanyl, straight fentanyl for 3 days. Then they put me on 2 PCAs. One was morphine and the other one was ketamine, but the ketamine just worked by itself. That was, I'm not even going to talk about that situation, because my God, I don't want to relive that. But the pain was just so bad, and it felt like nothing was working. There were not enough drugs in the world to stop that pain. And I had the lady from the pain team come in, and she said something, and it will stick with me forever. She said to me, she said, "Mon, I need you to know that the pain that you are in is not because of your injury. You're not injured anymore. It's because of surgery." So the pain that I was feeling was purely surgical, and because everything had been fixed. I wasn't injured anymore. I didn't have the tibia fracture anymore. Everything is fixed. And I found that really important to hear, because for the past 9 weeks, all the pain that I had, my brain knew that pain as my injury. So to then wake up in that pain again, your brain is going to put two and two together and not quite understand, because it's all it's known for so long. You know, whether you have your surgery a week after your injury or a day after your injury, your brain will still try to think that that pain is coming from that injury. So that was a really important thing for me to hear, and that did change my outlook. Another thing that changed my outlook as well is I was watching a video like this, because the reason I want to do this video is because going through this whole ordeal, I found it really hard to find people's experiences, and that made me feel lost and just like no one understood. And I want there to be more knowledge about it, because I think it's such a serious injury. Like, it's, if you're going through this, crop this and send this to your family, because, or your friends or your bosses or anyone, because a tibia plateau fracture is not just a broken bone. It is literally one of the worst things you could possibly do to your leg. The pain, unless you've gone through it, you have absolutely no right to comment on it or make little little remarks, you know, like, oh, but, you know, it's been this long, shouldn't it be better? No, you know, because there are a lot of people that could not hack this pain, and I'm telling you right now, I thought I was one of them, but I've gotten through it, and you will too. Just don't let people that haven't been through it try to tell you how you should be, or you should be walking by now, or, oh, I'm sure the pain's not that bad, or take a Panadol. Shut your mouth, actually. So yeah, but what's really helped me is I found this amazing Facebook page, and all you need to do is go and look up tibia plateau fracture pages. The one that I'm on, I will show you the specific picture, because before this I was going through a lot of depressing times. And it's hard. It's this one here. Screenshot that. And it's hard because you can't always pull yourself out of it. And no one really prepares you for the mental and emotional toll that this kind of injury will have on you. And it is severe. It really is. It is an absolute roller coaster. You know, for me personally, it was... 1 minute I'd be good, I'd be positive about my injury, and the next minute I'd be like, take me out the back and just, you know, because, and that's what it gets like, and it's hard to pull yourself out of that. But ever since joining this group, I have not had one of those thoughts, one of those down moments, because, you know, when you go through something like this, you have your family, your friends, your partner, you know, all that. And for me, I had my partner who is... oh my God, I could not have done this without her. And the love that I have for her is just, you know, and her family, the love I have for them, I would not have gotten through this without them, or my family and my friends as well. But, you know, they can only sympathize and they can only imagine what you're going through. But to come into this page, which is like a family, a community, and these people just genuinely understand, you know, that changed my whole life. It really did. It changed my whole outlook on all of this. And, you know, because for me, it could have been worse. I landed on both legs. I could have done both. There are people that have done both, you know, but I know I'm going to get back to walking. I'm going to get back to surfing, and I'm going to try to document my recovery as much as I can. Even if no one sees this, it's really for me as well. And it's also for me to know that if someone's ever feeling the way I was, and feeling lost and feeling like there wasn't enough information to make you feel like you were going to get through this, or will I ever walk again, or will I go back to surfing or skating or skiing or anything like that, you will. And I'm going to make sure that I do. You know, I think it's really important that there's just so much more information out there. And, you know, definitely on Facebook there is. But yeah. So I think it's really important to allow yourself to have these feelings. You know, you're not going crazy, you're not being dramatic, you're not doing anything wrong. This is the worst thing you could have done to your leg. And honestly, it's worse than the ACL, it's worse than all those kind of things you can do. Pretty much worse than the femur. Like, it is the bad, because it's your knee. You know, it's your knee. If you don't have use of your knee, you don't have use of your leg. You know, if you break your shin or something like that, you break your ankle, like, it's okay, because at least you've got your knee. Ugh. The knee is like the elbow. If you don't have use of your elbow, you don't. Do you know what I mean? So go easy on yourself. Join the group if you want to. But you should, because to take me from and just going lower and lower to just now I'm just over the moon and I'm at peace with my injury, because I've seen all these amazing people make so much progress, you know, people that have done it on the skis and going down slopes. And you know what? Those people are back shredding shit up on the snow. So I know I'm going to get back in the water. And you know, the thing is as well, this is such a long video, honestly. If you've stayed till now, good on you, and I appreciate it. Thank you, Mum. Is if I could go back, because I've been asked this, if I could go back in time and change what happened to me, would I? No. Because although the pain that I had to endure was the worst thing I've ever come across in my life, and I've been through some shit, I'd do it all again, because I learned so many lessons along the way, and I met so many amazing people, and not only that, but just the appreciation that I have for life in such a different way, and the respect that I have for my body is crazy. You know, we take things for granted, and you know, but the thing is that there are just so many silver linings in it, and that sometimes you have to get yourself to that point where, you know, it could have been worse. I could have done both legs. It could have been worse. I could have never walked again. It could have been worse. I could have, you know, like it could have been worse. I'm also grateful that I didn't do it on my surfboard, because I think for me personally, that would be a very hard thing for me to come back from, anxiety wise. But I think it's just important to know that you know your body. If you feel like something's wrong, push. Don't let them tell you different. If they're not seeing stuff in scan, you know, like, that just goes to show. Just because they don't see stuff in scans doesn't always mean, because I had 4 doctors, 4 doctors tell me nothing was wrong. They couldn't see anything, and it took that one doctor to be like, holy shit, you're damaged. And I was very, you know, and I'll show you guys my scar. Trigger warning advised, because it is not the prettiest of things. But you know, it's like I've also come to terms with my scar, and you know, everyone was saying you can use bio oil, you can get rid of it. It's quite big. It's about that big. Yeah, about that big. You can use bio oil, get rid of the scar, it's all right. And now I'm at so much peace with my scar and my injury that I'm like, nah, I'm gonna keep it, because if I could get through this, I can get through anything. And whenever I'm going through hard times, I'm gonna look down at that scar and be like, you got through that, you are a weapon, you can get through anything, and so can you. So, you know, I'll probably make more than one video about this, to be honest, because I feel like there's so much I've missed, and I feel like there's, you know, more that could be said. I want to, you know, keep track of my progress and all that, you know, just make very honest videos, because it's important to know. And it's important to know that if you are going through this, we will walk again. Like we will, it'll take time. You know, rehab can be between 6 and 12 months, but at least at the end of it, you know, you've done everything, you know. So I'm going to sign out for now because half an hour feels drastically long. I'm so sorry, but thank you guys so much.